My name is Martin Madert with the Witness to War Foundation. It is November 3rd, 2019, and we are in Seattle, Washington for the United States Marine Corps Vietnam Tankers Association reunion. Sir, if you could please state your name and spell it for me.
Bob Vaxter, V like in Victor, A-X-T-E-R.
And tell me what years you were in the Marine Corps and what years specifically in Vietnam.
I joined the Marine Corps in 1967, got out in 1971, or 3 years, 11 months, and 29 days. Because you always owe the government 1 day.
And what years were you in Vietnam?
I Vietnam, February 68 through March of 69.
And what rank were you in Vietnam and serving with what unit?
I first got to Vietnam, I was a PFC, Private First Class. When I left, I was a Lance Corporal. I served with Charlie Company, 3rd Tank Battalion, 3rd Marine Division.
All right, terrific. And if you wouldn't mind sharing the story that you had prepared.
Right. This incident took place May the 18th and the 19th, 1968. The tank I was on was Charlie 3-1, C for Charlie Company, 3-1 for the platoon, and 1 for the tank of that platoon. In other words, Charlie Company, 3rd Platoon, tank number 1, Charlie 3-1. We were operating out of a landing zone called LZ Hawk, which is approximately about 4 miles from the Khe Sanh combat base. But from the LZ, if you looked in the right direction, you could see the base. But by road, it was a 25-minute ride.
And before we get into it, tell me who you're with. Who do you remember being there?
I was on, the tank was Charlie 3-1, called the Lonely Bull. The tank commander was a man by the name of Darryl Clock, and he had attached a set of bull horns to the front of the tank, henceforth the name the Lonely Bull. And I was the driver for him.
Did you have a loader or anybody?
Loader by the name of Tony Sims. Our gunner was Tom Freeman, and of course Darryl Clock was the tank commander.
All right, so you're at LZ Hawk, and what happened there?
Well, on the morning of the 18th, our platoon commander, Dave Ralston, advised us we were being attached to, I don't remember the unit's name, infantry unit, as part of a blocking force on a sweep that they were running that day. So we drove with 2 truckloads of infantry north on Highway 9, went past the Khe Sanh combat base, probably 2 or 3 miles beyond that. Now we're going basically northwest, heading towards Laos. At one point, we turned off the road to our left, and now we're going basically due west for, I'm guessing, a couple of miles. And then we set up what was called a blocking force. In other words, we put the tank in the middle and infantry on line on both sides of us and kind of hunkered down behind trees, bushes, whatever. Of course, I don't know if the tanks hunker very well, but something about being 11 feet high makes them hard to hide. And we basically were there, so when whether the other infantry units were pushing the NVA towards us, our job was to kind of be the anvil, and they were the hammer. We heard firing off and on all day, but never really came close to us. Probably 4:30, maybe 5 o'clock in the evening, the infantry commander came to us, said they've stopped for the day. This push is no longer going. He had trucks coming to pick up his people, and they were going back to Bridge 3-5, which was about a quarter mile off of Highway 9 on the access road to Khe Sanh. Okay, that's great. Tanks were never allowed to operate generally by themselves. And so we're expecting to go back with them. And well, the trucks showed up, picked up the grunts, and they left. And there we're sitting. You know, nobody but us, you know, in our stealth tank. And so Darryl Clock got on the radio, and he called the Khe Sanh combat base and said, "Hey, you guys left us out here all by ourselves. How do we get back? Because we're not on any roads. We haven't been on them." And I have no idea who he was talking to, on a radio operator somewhere, and gave us directions. And basically it was turn around, go back the way we came. When you reach Highway 9, they told us make a left-hand turn. And so Darryl relayed those instructions to me because I'm the driver. And I told him that's not right. We made a left-hand turn off of Highway 9 to get where we're at. How can we make a left-hand turn back onto Highway 9 to get to where we were going? It's the wrong direction. "Oh, no, that's got to be it, because they gave us the directions. They've got the maps to look at, blah, 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 blah." So we argued for a few minutes, but of course the tank commander always wins. And so we turned around, we drove down the road for 10, maybe 15 minutes. Oh, there's Highway 9, left turn. Oh, maybe 5 or 10 minutes on the road. And Highway 9 is a dirt road. Pretty soon it's nothing more than a 2-track. And then a few minutes later, it's nothing more than bent road wheels in the grass. And pretty soon that's gone. We're in the middle of effing nowhere. There's no sign of a road because we've driven off of it. So at that point, Darryl Clock said, "Turn the tank around." We're obviously going in the wrong direction. I got kudos for being right for once. And so in the process of turning the tank around, now you have to understand we are out in middle of nowhere. I back the tank up about 15 feet and I run over about 20 feet of barbed wire. Why it was there, where it came from, who knows? But there's 20 feet of barbed wire. It got in the track and lifted the track off the drive sprocket on the left rear. The tank's now disabled. So what I have to do is take the track apart, take the barbed wire out, put the track back together before we can leave. So Darryl, we all get out of the tank, start getting the tools out to take it apart, basically giant wrenches. And Darryl hands me his personal weapon, an M16, and gives me 2 magazines. 20-round magazines actually only hold about 18 rounds because the springs are too soft. 20 rounds are too heavy, they can't push the rounds out. He hands me the 16 and 2 magazines and says, "Go over by that bush, your security." Okay, away I go. We had a motor transport truck driver with us that day. He had conned Lieutenant Ralston into letting him ride on a tank. Because basically we weren't going to do anything that day, so he figured it's okay. He hands the driver the grease gun, which is the loader's weapon, 2 magazines. So this guy's got 35 rounds maybe. And go over by that tree and be security. You know, if there's more than 5 NVA, we're done. And so there we are. And then Tom Freeman, Tony Sims, and Darryl start taking the track apart. They get the track apart, they get the barbed wire out of it, and this is probably takes a half hour. Now it's past 5 o'clock and it's starting to get dark. Darryl gets on the radio and he would admit to it that he lost it. I mean, I'm 20 yards from the tank and I can hear him talking just as if I'm standing next to you. He's yelling over the radio, a little bit of profanity here and there, and he's, "Get me some infantry out here for security. I'm broke down, I can't be here, blah, blah, blah." And I remember hearing whoever was talking to him telling him, "Now, calm down, Lieutenant, calm down, Lieutenant." You have to understand Darryl Clock is a sergeant, he's not a lieutenant. But in the military parlance, his call sign was Charlie 3-1 actual. To an infantry officer, that means he's a 1st or 2nd lieutenant because he's the actual. Anyway, we finally get everything back together. The voice on the radio tells him that he's sending out 2 truckloads of grunts to pick us up. We get the tank put back together, right, finish turning it around. We head back. Pretty soon we're on bent grass, we're on the 2-track, we're on the dirt road. We drive right past the place where we had got on the road and kept on going. Now it's 5:30, 6 o'clock, something like that, and it's dusk. It's going to be pitch black in about 15 or 20 minutes. We run into the trucks with the grunts. All 3 units go to Bridge 3-5 and set in for the night because we can't go anywhere because it's now 7:30 at night. So we spent the night there, very quiet night. We did security. The next morning, we're up and we're waiting for the road sweep and the convoy coming out of Khe Sanh, either going to Dong Ha or Camp Carroll, wherever they're going to. But there's always a morning road sweep with mine detectors, and then the convoys behind them. And about 7:30, while we're drinking our coffee out of our C-ration coffee cups, I describe it as angry bees going over our heads. The bzz, bzz, bzz. Well, it's bullets. These are bullets, and there's hundreds of them. And there's a major firefight somewhere on the other side of the trees because all this ammunition is actually, the leaves are falling like it's snow. Darryl got on the radio, called back to Landing Zone Hawk, to our platoon commander, told him what was happening. He contacted Khe Sanh. They said, yeah, the convoy's been attacked. They needed the people from LZ Hawk to get up to where we were on Bridge 3-5, and we're going to be a push. And in the meantime, of course, the firefight's still going on, and we can't join it because we've been ordered not to. And it took approximately 35, maybe an hour for the tanks to get from LZ Hawk to where we were, because it's about a half-hour drive by road. They get there, we got 3 tanks, we've got probably at least 1 company of infantry that came with them, and plus what was there with us. We go into the woods, break out of the woods and get online and begin sweeping towards the Khe Sanh combat base. And the firefight is obviously still going on, and now we're in the firefight. There was 1 tank burning and 1 tank just sitting there, obviously disabled. Had a hole about this big in the front of it where an RPG went through it. The crew on one of the tank, if I remember right, was either, they released all wounded, if not all killed. The other tank had 2 or 3 wounded people. We got online, we're pushing the enemy in front of us towards the blocking force that had come out of Khe Sanh and got online. And this all seems like it takes place in 15 or 20 minutes. It turns out, I found out later, it takes 2 or 3 hours. The infantry came across a bunker that they couldn't get rid of. They would throw a hand grenade in, the hand grenade would come back out. They'd shoot into it, and their bunker's made out of 2 and 3 foot around trees and stuff, so the bullets aren't going anywhere. They throw a grenade, it comes back out. Occasionally a grenade would come out of the bunker that the people inside would throw. And so, I remember right, Darryl Clock asked Dave Ralston, the platoon commander, if we could fire the main gun, the 90 millimeter, and we'll just blow up the bunker. No, you can't do that, the infantry's too close. They'd probably get hit by flying. You might kill more infantry people than. So I told Darryl, let's just drive on top of it. Tank is 52 tons. So they gave us permission to do that. I drove the tank sideways onto the top of the bunker. The bunker's this way, we drove on it that way. Got on top of it, and I did what's called a neutral steer. Put the transmission in neutral and turn the steering wheel and hit the accelerator. And one track goes backwards, the other track goes forwards. The tank turns on its axis. Well, we crushed the bunker. I drive off of it, and we're going, yeah, we did it, Just about that time we get back in our position, I recall him as being young and tall, North Vietnamese soldier comes out of the bunker, He's alive in there, right? Takes a Chinese hand grenade, and they are basically about a 4 or 5 inch piece of cheapo metal with a wooden handle and a string at the bottom. He pulls the string and he throws it at the tank. I'm looking at this thing from my position as the driver, going, this guy is a terrible thrower. He threw it so high it's going to go right over the top of the tank. So I'm watching it go like this. I quit watching. It sails over the tank and hits Darryl Clock in the chest. He's unbuttoned. He's standing up there. So from his waist up, he's exposed. It hits him in his flak jacket, bounces off, rolls down the gun shield into the open driver's compartment, and lands at my feet. Pretty much that's what I said. For the people not on camera, he just said, oh shit. And I looked down at that thing and I went, I don't even have time to bend over and kiss my ass goodbye, I'm dead. And then I realized it didn't go off. So I reached down, I picked it up, and I threw it out. Then I took the lever and dropped the seat and closed the hatch. You know, I'm lucky once, I'm probably not going to be lucky twice. And so for the rest of the day in that battle, I'm driving buttoned up, and it's probably 95, 100 degrees that day, and I'm inside the tank. I probably lost 5 or 10 pounds. And the battle goes on, and finally we get orders to pull back, and we're still fighting. The orders pull back. The jets are coming in. They're going to napalm the area. So we pull back. The grunts pull back, and we're all sitting there going, God, I hope it's Navy pilots or Marine Corps pilots. The reason being, nothing against the Air Force, but they weren't trained in close air support, which meant basically the Air Force would come in and drop their napalm at 1,000 feet. The Navy pilots or the Marine pilots would drop it at tree level. So here come the jets. They're close enough I can see the pilot as it goes by. They're probably 75 feet off the deck. They drop their napalm, and napalm rolls, the burning gel rolls, and pretty much that ended the battle. And then when they are all gone, we start up again. We push, looking for survivors or whatever. And it's a terribly gross thing, but at the time it was extremely funny. There was an NVA soldier who had apparently been blown up into the top of a tree. He was over the branch with fire coming out his rectum. Apparently, well, he was dead, obviously, and the internal body gases were escaping, and because he was on fire, he was burning. It looked like the old joke about you take your cigarette lighter and light up your farts when they come out. Like I said, extremely gross, but funny. Well, this got all done. We went into the base at Khe Sanh because we're out of low on fuel, we're low on ammunition, and it's starting to get dark. Now this thing started at 7:30 in the morning. It's now almost 7:30 at night. My time frame is we did this for maybe 2 hours. Turns out we did it for almost 12. So we sat there. We spent the night at Khe Sanh. The morning of the 20th of May, we picked up a convoy, just like the day before, and we followed it, and we got off at LZ Hawk and stayed there. The morning of the 21st, Lieutenant Ralston came to us and said, you guys need to go to Dong Ha. I need you to go to Dong Ha, which is 5 or 6 hours away by tank. What do we need for there, Lieutenant? Just go. Okay, Lieutenant says go, we go. We drive to Dong Ha. People are there going, what are you guys doing here? Well, we're supposed to do something here. Well, I don't know what you want. We didn't know what we wanted. It turns out that the captain that Darryl Clock was talking to on the radio on the 18th, who thought he was talking to an officer, found out that Darryl Clock was a sergeant. He wants Darryl Clock arrested for impersonating an officer. He wants him court-martialed and sent to jail. Well, he called Dave Ralston to see where Darryl Clock was at. Made the mistake of telling Ralston what he wanted. Ralston comes out of the meeting on the radio, sends us to Don Haas. So when this officer gets there, we're not there. Where's Darryl Clock at? I don't know. He was here a while ago. He might be on a convoy. He might be on a road sweep. I don't know where he's at. I don't know where half my people are at, which basically was the truth most of the time. So we came back a couple of days later, it all blown over, and cooler heads had taken control. So that was basically a 2-day exercise in fun and games in the sun.
No kidding. That is a crazy story.
Look. The scary part is it's true.
So in those moments, you see that grenade land at your feet. Well, walk me through what those seconds felt like in your mind.
Well, like I said, I heard this thing rolling down and I don't know what it is until it goes in my vision. And I see this grenade laying there. Like I said, I thought, I don't even have tough time to bend over and kiss my butt goodbye because I'm dead. And the fuse isn't smoking, the thing didn't go off. And this is all within 3 or 4 or 5 seconds. I picked it up, I threw it out, I shut the hatch. There's a little tidbit at the end that when the battle was over with, and I went to unopen the driver's hatch, it won't open, it's been jammed. I shut it so hard I jammed it. And so I got on the intercom system in the tank and I asked Darryl or somebody to come and kick the hatch for me so it would open up. And Darryl came and he stomped on it, broke it, and I opened up the hatch. And he says, "My God, it stinks in there." I'm thinking, well, yeah, been buttoned up for God knows how long. It's 90+ degrees out. I think I may have been sweating a little bit. He goes, no, it stinks. Well, I get up because I want to stretch. I get up, climb out of the hatch, walk around the back of the tank, and I go, it's not the compartment, it's me. I realized at that point what happened was when the grenade landed at my feet, my sphincter muscle relaxed. As they say, I had defecated in my trousers. So I opened up my mic box, which is a 40mm ammo box that we used on the tanks, empty, because you could close them and they became watertight. And you put all your personal gear in there. So I opened up the mic box, took out a clean pair of trousers, cleaner than the ones I had on, definitely. Took my trousers off, shook them out, rolled them up, threw them back in the mic box, and put on a clean pair of pants.
A couple other questions to wrap us up today. What do you want people to remember about the Vietnam War based on your experiences?
Well, there's always the standard joke that we were winning when I left. But I think people need to realize that, for lack of a better term, the warrior is not the politician. The politicians decide what to do, which to a certain degree is their job, and the warriors fulfill the politicians' desires. Hopefully when the warriors are fulfilling the politicians' desires, they're doing it in such a way that the results will be what everybody wants. Unfortunately, in Vietnam, that wasn't the case. The people in Washington and the people in Saigon that were actually running the war, so to speak, for the most part, I think they wanted to fight the Second World War all over again. In other words, we're going to get big battles, and we're going to inflict tremendous casualties on the enemy, and they're going to go, oh God, we can't beat you, we quit. But it wasn't going to happen. That didn't going to work. When you got an enemy who can sit on the top of a hill 300 meters from you and shoot you, and by the time you get over there to find out what he's gone. It's hard to beat that guy unless you fight the war his way, which we weren't doing, for the most part. There were units that did it. The Marine Corps had what they called CAP units, which I was fortunate enough to be in for a month and a half. And they basically were 12 Marines and a corpsman who lived with the Vietnamese, taught them small unit tactics, how to defend themselves, and made that village safe from the Viet Cong and unless it was a big attack, the NVA. And the Australian Army basically fought a guerrilla war with the guerrillas, and some army units did the same thing. But everybody else was employed in let's do Second World War rerun. and it didn't work.
And lastly, any final thoughts, words of advice for anybody watching this in the future?
I would say probably you don't blame the warrior for the war. Whether they're good people, bad people, or indifferent people, they're there because they're told to be there, not because they want to be there. Believe me, nobody wants to be there. Any person who wants to go to war is somebody who's never been there. The people who have been there, well, they might do it again. They really don't want to be there.
Well, Bob, I can't thank you enough for taking the time this morning to come by and share your stories with me. It's an honor and a pleasure, but more importantly, thank you so much for your service.
No,
It's greatly
thank you.
appreciated.